We've entered 2026 and the first Google Pixel update of the year is here. For those with a Pixel device, it's time to grab the January Pixel update. For this January Pixel update, Google is pushing new builds to Pixel 7a and up through the new Pixel 10 series. Since December brought us a major quarterly update, QPR2, this January update is minor, weighing in at just over 7 megabytes and should take care of a handful of bugs while providing the latest in security patches. However, this update for Pixel 10 devices is a little more important. This January update brings much needed GPU improvements among others. Google states on their developers' website improvements to display and graphics just for the Pixel 10 series. There are, quote, general improvements for GPU performance in certain conditions, unquote, along with an Adobe Lightroom fix for noisy lines flashing on the screen, unquote, when editing HDR photos. There's also a fix for the Pixel 10 series always on display flickering, as well as addressing the touchscreen randomly not working under certain conditions. Today, I tested the GPU performance before the update and after the update. I ran a Geekbench GPU benchmark and a CPU benchmark just to see if we can tell any obvious signs of improvements. Let's jump into the numbers. So let me show you here. This is obviously the Pixel 10 series. Now, I am on the January security update, January 5, 2026, and we are set to check the numbers out. So, let's go to history. So, the CPU, and then we'll get to the GPU. I tested both, as I mentioned earlier. So, the bottom set of numbers is the test on the December security patch. This is on the stable build. This is not beta. This is the stable build. So before this update, I got a single core score of 2310. After the update, I got a score of 2295. So it actually got worse on single core performance. Now on multi-core score, before the update, 6189. And after the update on January security patch, I got 6221. So a very, very minor improvement, just by a few numbers. Now let's jump into the GPU, because this is, where everybody's wanting to know the scores and if Google is going to improve the GPU drivers. So these two numbers here on the bottom, that's before. This is after. So the very bottom number in this number, here I did the OpenCL first and then Vulkan. So OpenCL would be first. And the OpenCL score on the December security patch update, so this was before the update, I got a score of 4143. After the update, the OpenCL GPU benchmark scored 4046. So it actually got a worse score after the update. Now let's roll into the Vulkan test, which is this one right here. Scored 3686. After the update, 3700. So barely improved. So if you run multiple tests, you don't get a exact score every single time you run the test. Now, could I have run it multiple times? Sure, but there's not that big of a variation between the numbers. What you generally see here is what you're generally going to get, right? There's not going to be an enormous jump from one benchmark to the next. And seeing that it got some improvements by just maybe 1 or 2% on some tests, but on other tests, it got the numbers were reduced after the update by 1 to 2%. So I really don't see any improvement whatsoever. Now, this was just the Geekbench application, just the Geekbench test. I did not run any other test, no ADVERTISERS, no 3D Mark. Could I have? Sure, but Geekbench is the most widely used benchmark tool and or app, and I really don't see much improvement. So it did say in the changelog in the developer notes under quote unquote certain conditions, and I wish they would. These companies are so vague when it comes to improvements, when it comes to what they modified in the system image. So vague. I wish they would be a little bit more descriptive as far as under what conditions. Like, what do the conditions have to be for us to see a GPU improvement? Could it be something we're missing? Could it be something obviously not showing up in these results? Sure. Like it could be when it knows it's playing a game, right? Like during gameplay or during high frame rate time. But again, that's what generally a benchmark does, right? So I don't really see it, and it has me honestly scratching my head. Like, I don't know at what point. Look, we've had this Pixel 10 series has gone through roughly 6 updates so far. We get the August, September, October, November, December, and now January. So half of a life cycle, half of a year, and you still have users scratching our heads, wondering when are we going to see these GPU numbers increase, right? Even just by, I think you could satisfy Pixel users, Google, if you just somehow, some way, I know you can do it, increase these scores, maybe give it a little more of a performance boost. I know it's a fine balance between performance, overheating. If you crank it up all the way, well, of course it's going to get hot and overheat, but you don't want to crank it up too much to overheat, so you turn it down a little bit. It's like fine tuning, right? And I just wish we could get to a point where we do see improvements, because I don't see any improvements here. 1 to 2% improvement on one score, and then a 1 to 2 decrease in performance is not really cutting it. Now, you're probably not the right person to be buying a Pixel if you're a heavy gamer, right? Like, you're probably just better off getting a OnePlus 15 or hell, even a Samsung S23 Ultra at this point. But I think most Pixel owners already know this, right? Like I'm always going to buy a Pixel, right? It may seem like I'm shitting on Google, and maybe I am, but I don't buy a Pixel to game. And again, I don't game, but I buy a Pixel for the fluidity, for the cameras are flawless. I freaking love these cameras. Very smooth, simple, easy operating system. And I think buyers of Pixel devices know that. They know it's not the best performer when it comes to gaming. And I think, look, Google, I'm going to do a story tomorrow where Google's market share has increased even more. Remember last year there was that story where their market share has increased like 15% more than any other phone manufacturer. Yes, even more than Apple. Well, guess what? This year, it increased even more. So I think Pixel users, I think there's a niche in the market that just want it's the iPhone of Androids, if that makes sense. I know a lot of people don't like me saying that, but let's be honest, it really is. It's the iPhone of Androids. It's a simple operating system. It's buttery smooth, takes phenomenal pictures. And yes, can you play games? Of course, right? Can you take 4K 60 frames per second real good video? Of course. This will do everything any other phone will do. It just doesn't get the maximum frame rates and or performance if you're a hardcore gamer. But again, I'm beating it. Pixel buyers aren't heavy gamers, right? So I just wish they would stop teasing us, because if they just said, hey, we have a January update out, it's available like every other month, they'd be like, cool, let's update the phone, right? I get excited for these updates, right? That's why you own a Pixel. You usually get the first batch of the monthly updates. So I just wish they wouldn't tease us with, oh, there's a GPU improvements. It's like, oh boy, this is it. Let's see how much they improved it by. And then it's like, womp, womp, womp. Well, it actually decreased in performance in some tests. So whatever, it is what it is. It's still a beautiful phone. This is still the best looking cell phone you can buy, maybe of all time. Just a classic design. This smaller one just fits perfectly in your hand. Looks absolutely gorgeous. Freaking love this phone. So am I disappointed? Maybe a little bit, but now when I take a step back, it's been a few minutes. Well, I guess a few hours. I'm not that disappointed. I just wish they wouldn't tease us with GPU improvements. It's like, oh wow, this is it, and then it's not. But it is all good. I think I'm still happy with my device. And now that I've had this 10 series for 6 months, look, I still keep it on my daily rotation, right? I think it's number 2 in my lineup. I've been using the OnePlus 15 with my primary number in it, and carrying the Pixel around with me. But I'm honestly considering putting my, I guess not physical SIM. I'd have to switch to an eSIM, but you get the point, right? Like, I carry it with me everywhere. It's a dependable phone. You will get, they noted battery improvements, but they kind of gypped us on the GPU stuff. So now I'm wondering, are we really going to see battery improvements? Well, time will tell. Stay tuned. Subscribe to the eSIMstudios YouTube channel. We cover Pixel, we cover OnePlus, we cover iPhone, we cover Samsung, all technology all over the world on one YouTube channel. So stay tuned, subscribe, and we have more giveaways coming up later this week. Appreciate the time. See y'all on the next one. Peace out.